Earlier, I just nearly had a heart attack because I thought I had broken something. Technically, I sort of broke something.
ああ、やっちまったな。
Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steven with a scale figure review from the 5th Grand Order franchise for today. Yes, another FGO figure because I collect a lot of these. This time around we are looking at Max Factory 1/7 scale Ereshkigal, which is a Lancer class servant from the 5th Grand Order franchise from the Type Moon universe. She did appear in the anime adaptation of FGO Babylonia. That is a great series. Go and watch it if you haven't. This is also what we can call a blonde version of Tohsaka Rin, though she is not exactly Tohsaka Rin at the same time. I don't really want to go into too much details for those of you who are unfamiliar with the Fate series, but yeah, if you are wondering whether this is the same character as Tohsaka Rin, well, you are 50% correct, but at the same time, there are some differences because Tohsaka Rin is a human and a master, this is a servant. I'll just leave that aside, go and read Type Moon Wikipedia, right? This figure was released just very recently, in fact, 3 months ago, 28th of July 2022, for just under 18,000 Japanese yen, but you can actually find her for a discount, maybe on Amazon Japan. That is where I picked her up. Just a bit over 14,000 yen. And for this price point, 14,000 yen, I would say this figure is a steal, regardless of the issues that I am about to point out later. So regarding the unboxing of this figure, yes, this figure gets a very nice box in fact, and there are a few parts that require assembly on this figure, and you really need to be extremely careful when you are putting together this figure because there is one very fragile part on this figure, which is that soul cage in her left hand. Yeah, the one she is holding between her left thumb and index finger. Earlier, I just nearly had a heart attack because I thought I had broken something, which technically I sort of broke something, but it is not exactly a fracture. There are no parts that actually broke into two halves. What actually happened was that I just used a bit too much force and that soul cage broke free. It is now hanging in her left hand. It can swing around, as you can see. Yeah, it is supposed to be fixed, but now it is movable. So I'm going to leave it like this because visually there is nothing broken, and the only change is that she is supposed to be holding the cage at a slight angle, but now it is upright. I don't see this to be a problem. In fact, I think upright looks a bit more natural. So I'm going to leave it this way and not attempt to apply any glue in her left hand because the part is so thin that I might make things worse. The second thing you need to pay attention to is her cape, which was actually described in the instruction sheet on assembly, where you need to slide it under her right arm before you can put it into place. These are the only two things you need to pay attention to during assembly, while everything else are pretty straightforward. I do like the box a lot. It is very similar to the box design of a number of other FGO figures, where it is non-windowed and then you open it around. I do prefer this kind of box in fact over the traditional windowed box because they appear to be a lot more solid and offer more protection to the figure. Moving on to the actual figure itself, let's begin with the sculpture, which is something I am very happy about. That face is totally Ereshkigal, totally Tohsaka Rin. This is a 10 out of 10 face. There is virtually nothing I can complain about, so I'm very happy with the face. And overall, the sculpture of her hair is fine as well, but I will speak about the hair in a very moment because that is more to painting, which I have a complaint or two. Her outfit looks very luxurious and exquisite, exactly how Ereshkigal should be portrayed as a character. And then there is her cape behind her, which I think is the best part of this figure because it looks like real cloth to me, real fabric. I think on top of the detailing and shading on the paintwork, there is some kind of satin finish or coating being applied, which is very nice. I like it a lot. Under lighting, together with all those shadows and shadings, yeah, it looks like real cloth to me. I love it a lot. Overall, this figure's sculpture is almost a 10 out of 10. But when we come to the paintwork, well, there are a couple of complaints I have with this figure. Now, don't get me wrong over here, because the paint job of this figure is very good. There aren't much flaws to speak about, but I can see some dust particles being caught under the paintwork. This is what happens when dust particles lands on top of a figure's surface before paint can be applied, and then you have paint being sprayed over those dust particles. These spots over here, this is what you get as a result. Otherwise, the paintwork on everywhere else of this figure is very nice, very accurate and precise. I can't find any paint smudges, scratches or paint bleeding. The paintwork is very good. The last part is the base, which I do really like what we are getting over here. This rock formation is definitely in reference to the underworld she looks over as a guardian. However, I would like to see more shading on the grey color paintwork on the base over here. The bigger concern over here is how hollow and lightweight the base is. So despite having metal foot pegs connecting her foot to the base, this figure is not the most stable figure in the world. She wobbles quite a bit, as you can see when shaken even just slightly. However, I don't think you have to worry over the durability of this figure, because the weight distribution of this figure is fairly balanced, despite having a heavy cape behind her. In comparison, the Aniplex version of Ereshkigal is a lot more back heavy than this one over here, oddly enough. However, I would really like to see more bulk and weight being added to the base of this figure. As a conclusion to today's review of this Ereshkigal by Max Factory, if you were to ask me, is this figure worth purchasing? I will tell you first, if you can find her for 14,000, 15,000 yen like how I got her from Amazon Japan at this price point, it would be idiotic not to buy this figure if you are a fan of Fate Grand Order, because this is one heck of a deal. For 125, 130 US dollars, you're getting something like this. It can't get any better than this. And of course, watch out for this soul cage in her left hand, very fragile. So yeah, go and get one of this figure if you haven't yet and you are a fan of the Fate series. In fact, I would say this Max Factory version of Ereshkigal is slightly better in quality over the Aniplex version. But for a photographer like me who likes to photograph figures inside a diorama, I would like Aniplex version in terms of the pose a lot more. Because the Aniplex version, the pose of that Ereshkigal, it is a lot more photogenic in my opinion. So there we have it, Max Factory 1x7 Ereshkigal from Fate Grand Order. Thank you very much for watching today's figure review, and I shall see you guys soon. Goodbye.